Hello folks, this week is a really interesting one for me because I've got more experience with the A3 Sportback than probably any other car on the face of the earth, and that's because I've done about 200,000 miles in them. I also had an A3 saloon for a little while in my company car days when I was careering around the country up and down the motorways. So I've got the new A3 Sportback with me today. This one's the 35 TFSI with the Tronic automatic gearbox. It's a black edition, so you'll see all the bright works blacked out and it all looks a bit moodier. We have got this optional paint, which is 595 quid, and that is called District Green Metallic. Not my favourite colour in the world, I have to say, but maybe it floats your boat, I don't know. So the new A3 Sportback starts at £29,500. This one is completely fully loaded. It's got the Tech Pack Pro on it. As I said, it's the black edition as well. 41 grand for this one here. CO2 emissions on this 1.5 litre, 150 brake horsepower engine with a bit of mild hybrid thrown in, between 121 and 130 grams per kilometre. And then we're looking at an acceleration 8.1 seconds to 62, 53 mpg in sport trim, 50.4 in S-Line and 49.6 in black edition. And that disparity between the trim levels is probably just due to the wheel size. This one's riding on some very, very cool looking 19-inch alloys. Now that Tech Pack Pro that this one comes with gives you things like Sonos premium sound, Matrix LED headlights. They call this a panoramic sunroof, but I don't really. It looks more panoramic than it is because it kind of actually inside the car finishes about here. So I don't think that is fully panoramic. It does look really cool though, and the sunroof does obviously brighten it up a bit inside. You also get power front seats and adaptive cruise control with emergency assistance. Now you're probably not expecting miracles with the boot space in this car. We've got 380 litres and the boot's a really good shape to get large items in and out. There's a little bit of a load lip, but it's actually really good because it's just enough to stop your shopping falling out, but you don't have to reach down massively to get items out. But what is fantastic, and I've got my little camera bag here, is the underfloor space. Unlike many manufacturers, they haven't got half the world's supply of polystyrene under here, so it means that can simply disappear along with all your tyre jollop and all that kind of stuff. And the rear seats are split 40-20-40. Some will have bigger boots, no doubt, but usually there's so much polystyrene underneath that floor that that space is just completely unusable. That's quite a nice piece of design, I think. So in the rear cabin, you'll find this is more than suitable for 2 adults, but 3 will find themselves fighting for foot room a little bit because, you know, there is a hump in the middle of the floor. We've got a couple of USB chargers down there, USB-Cs that is, and the air vents are down there. No seat back pockets in this one, but you do have a nice little scoop to give you a bit of extra leg room. And unlike a lot of modern cars, there's plenty of foot room as well. Now we do have that sunroof, which is not particularly panoramic for a panoramic sunroof. And although it does brighten up the cabin, it is still a wee bit dark in the back here. And that's because we've got a dark headliner and obviously privacy glass on these back windows. But I think your passengers will be reasonably happy in here. There's a nice big central armrest with a double cup holder in. The seats are glorious. You've got a nice bit of adjustment in the headrest, plenty of headroom, so you'd be absolutely fine in here at 6 foot. And yeah, it's a nice place to be. Once you get into the front cabin, there's a really pleasant familiarity to everything if you've been in an A3 in recent times. The infotainment system is possibly starting to show its age a tiny bit, and really just because I think some of the icons and things could do with a refresh. It's a little bit monochromatic at the moment, and I think people are now used to things like Apple CarPlay so much that just some big bold icons would probably be a little bit better. The sat-nav's brilliant. I still think it's one of the best ones on the market. You've got Google satellite imagery on that as well. Looks great. And we've still got plenty of physical buttons. The aircon controls are all there at your fingertips where you want them to be. You don't need a GCSE to be able to work out how to put the heating up or anything like that. And then we've also got some physical buttons down here for things like your drive select, your auto start, stop, traction control, all that kind of good stuff. 2 USB-Cs down here, wireless charging pad, and then we've got a little rocker switch for your gear selection, and a really weird thing for the volume control. I don't like it. It's been in a lot of VW Group cars. Never liked it in any of them, and I still don't. However, there is a brilliant physical thumb dial here on the steering wheel, and on this wheel we still have all the physical buttons, no haptics or anything, and that's genius. Absolutely genius. Just leave the buttons, please. You've got Virtual Cockpit Pro or Plus, I can't remember which. That's still great. It hasn't changed too much over the years, and to be honest, it doesn't need to because it's not broken. And this one's also got a fairly decent head-up display. Material quality, I'd say, has improved since the last iteration of the A3 I had. I think that was a 2019 saloon, and that was the first time I'd got into an A3 and felt like the build quality had gone down and felt like they'd cut costs a bit. I think it had a bit more standard tech than the old days, but it felt like things had taken a wee bit of a dive in terms of the quality, and I think they're coming back up now. I think this is an improvement, certainly over the previous incarnation of the A3, and I certainly have no qualms with anything in here, apart from the piano black, which we find here and here. Some people love it. I just don't. I don't think it looks particularly great, and it always sort of gathers fingerprints and things. But as I said, some people think it looks great and classy and everything else. It's just not my cup of tea. What is my cup of tea is this lovely bit of cloth material on this sort of centre part of the dash. It just feels great, looks good, and you know, it's nice and tactile. So I did actually drive along and I gave this a quick stroke in traffic earlier. I don't know if I should really admit to having a quick stroke in traffic, but there we go. We've got 2 cup holders here that are also illuminated. Have you ever known such luxury? And a little storage compartment there. It's a really nice interior. It feels like a little bit of a return to form. There are still some areas where it's not as good as the old A3s. I mean, you could go back 10 years and find sort of felt lining in the door pockets and things. That went a long time ago, and it did in a lot of cars. Seems like a simple thing, but it's that perceived quality, you know, and something like that, every time you put your hand into the door pocket and it all feels quite nice rather than a bit rigid and plasticky, it is a good thing to have. Also, like, some of the materials are really nice up here, but not so good when you get down here. But these are first world issues, folks. The world's a different place. I think in its class, this is more than a match for anything else out there. So behind the wheel, the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is the suspension, because this thing is an absolute masterclass in suspension. It's so precise in corners, and despite this being a front wheel drive car, you feel like you've got a hell of a lot of grip, but it's still comfortable. I mean, we're going over a fairly rough surface at the moment, and that's not really getting transferred through to my buttocks as it would in something like the new BMW 1 Series, which is a much firmer ride. Not too many manufacturers achieve that balance. You either get amazing handling but a fairly sort of agricultural ride at times, or you've got this nice floaty comfortable ride, but you know, it all gets a bit vague when you turn the wheel, and a bit boaty even. The Audi have struck the balance with this one absolutely perfectly. So, you know, I am wearing a hat, but I'm not going to take it off. But hats off to their engineers. The engine is also another triumph, and particularly the way it mates up with this 7-speed S-Tronic gearbox. It just again strikes that nice balance. When in everyday use, you know, it delivers decent efficiency, and it's quick enough, and you know, it's not in any way difficult to live with, and you don't have the sort of rattle you get from the diesel, because the diesels are a wee bit agricultural. And again, it just strikes a nice balance between performance and efficiency. And you know, 8.1 seconds is not the fastest thing on earth, is it? But it's more than adequate for most people. And you know, if you put it into sport mode and use the flappy paddles, which are brilliant by the way, then you could be excused for thinking you're actually making much quicker progress than you actually are. So it does have a sense of fun. You've just heard a little bing going off there. Turning off the driver assistance features is a little bit of a faff. Obviously every car's got them now, thanks to Euro NCAP. Some manufacturers make it slightly easier than others to turn them off. It's a little bit of a faff in this, I have to say. But I'm going to leave them on for this video, just to give you an idea of how often they might go off in the real world if you don't go through that procedure of turning them all off. It's just the way of the world in 2024 if you want a new car. Now the brakes are an interesting thing in this, because although they're very capable, they feel a bit grabby and a bit over-eager at times. You do get used to it reasonably quickly. But, you know, my daily driver is an electric car, and usually when I go back into a car with an internal combustion engine, it feels like the brakes are really weak, because I'm used to that sort of engine braking, motor braking, regen braking that you get in an electric car. So I'm sometimes a bit too light-footed on the brakes when I get back into something with an engine. That's not the case in this. The first time I used the brakes in this, I was taking the delivery driver down to the station because I'm a lovely human being, and I think I nearly put the poor chap through the windscreen, so apologies, Terry. But yeah, I've got very used to it in the last few days, that's for sure, and it probably took no more than 10 minutes to get used to it, to be fair. But there are just the odd occasion where they just feel like they're grabbing a bit and not that progressive. But it could just be the idiot behind the wheel at the end of the day. We always have to factor that in, don't we? All in all, this is a brilliant thing. I mean, I've been up and down the country, I don't know how many times in my life in an A3 Sportback, and it's a very capable car on the motorway. It's a very capable car around town, and I think for most families, you know, it would absolutely do the job as well. Folks, please don't ignore cars of this shape and size in favour of an SUV. I'm sure loads of people will overlook the A3 to go straight to a Q3, and I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice, because to me this is a far more balanced car, and it really is very, very good. It is evolutionary and not revolutionary, but I think it's a really comfortable, happy place for Audi. And as someone that's come from lots of A3s, it's a really comfortable and happy place for me as well. I think it's a very good car. So what do you think, folks? Don't forget, if you don't have £29,500 or even 41 for a car with this kind of spec, you can have a look at leasing one of these. So click the link in the video description. That will take you to all the latest lease deals at the time you click, and it helps support the channel. In summary, I think it's a brilliant car, I really do. So a couple of weeks ago, folks, I went on to the launch for the new 1 Series, and I basically had the equivalent of this in BMW 1 Series. And I have to say, there's not a massive amount between them. I'd say the 1 Series possibly edges it on the infotainment side of things. This certainly edges it on the ride comfort side of things. But they're both really good cars. What Audi have done here, however, is taken a really good power plant. That 1.5, 150 brake horsepower engine is just perfectly mated to this car and that gearbox. And they've given us like a good level of performance without being daft. But you've also got really great ride comfort and superb real-world efficiency. So it's a job well done as far as I'm concerned. Now, if you don't have £29,500 to go and splash out on one of these, or even £41,000 for one in this kind of spec, click on the link in the video description. That will take you to all the latest lease deals that are available on the Audi A3. And you might just be surprised, who knows? That will be sort of correct at the time you click. So deals come and go, folks, so give it a click and see what you find. Thanks ever so much for watching this video, and a big thanks to Audi for letting me have this one in for review, because it's a car that I've wanted to get my hands on for some time, especially given my history with the A3, and it's been a pleasure, it really has. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, see you on the next one. Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.